You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
From kitchen chaos to well-oiled machines, get ready for newfangled technology and old-school know-how. Stories and a good bit of fun. I'm Simon, and this is Culinary Mechanic. Joining me today is Jeff Boland. Jeff, welcome to Culinary Mechanic, man.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. You and I, we connected on LinkedIn, and I think that looking over some of your job history and whatnot, I just can't wait to hear some of the stories I'm about to get, man. The fact that you're in a multi-unit space and running a bunch of barbecue joints, I dig it. So let's just press on the gas and say, how'd you get into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. So honestly, I got in the industry on accident or by default more than anything, but it turned out to be the greatest mistake of my life. It turned out to be amazing. So I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and was working in Charlotte at the time. And I was working in construction, but I had this really bad habit of using drugs at that time, which is usually not going to lead to a lot of success. So I've been in recovery for 16 years now and sober and loving life. But at that time I was really struggling, and I was working in construction and got fired because I kept falling asleep in the trailer. I would just, eat OxyContin like they were Tic Tacs and fall asleep in the trailer. And so I ended up losing that job, and I called my mother, and she said, well, my friend's brother-in-law is opening a Chili's near you. Go in there and apply. And the crazy, serendipitous part of that is I'm standing in line to do my application, and there's a young lady standing in front of me. That young lady ends up sitting next to me in orientation and is my wife today.
Wow.
And I like to look at it as the person that continues to save my life every day. I met because of the restaurant industry and because of that opportunity. So I started working in restaurants at Chili's and found myself really loving it because of the parallels I drew to sports and coaching. I've always been a big sports fan, and while I was having these struggles at a young age, I was very, very good at basketball. I've lost all the talent, so I'm not bragging at all. It's all gone now. But at the time, I was very, very good. And so my life was centered around basketball completely until the drugs came along. And what I loved about the restaurant is immediately I could tell that restaurants were like the ultimate team sport. Yeah. Everyone has to do their job at a high level to be successful at the highest level. I can be a mediocre server and the kitchen's great, but if I'm not on my game, then that experience isn't perfect, and vice versa. So I really learned early on that it was that kind of environment that I needed, that team, almost family mindset where everyone's pushing each other and holding each other accountable and striving for something that you cannot achieve on your own. And that gave me more of an identity and a belonging than I had felt in a long time.
Awesome. Okay, so you get into it, you find the belonging. That is one of the most powerful things I can think of, right? We all want to belong to something.
Yeah, 100%.
So as long as I've been doing this, I've noticed that there's always those moments that say that life is tugging on you to go outside the industry.
Oh yeah.
As well as an equal and opposing force that says this is where I belong. Like, what was that for you? Like, what kept you here?
Nobody's asked me that question, and I love that question because it really is the most powerful lesson that changed my life more than anything. And I mean that. And when I was in the restaurant, I started at 17 years old. And by the time I was 20 years old, I was dating now my wife. and working in restaurants. And then I got sober right after my 22nd birthday. And then I learned that my girlfriend is pregnant.
Wow.
And so at the time, this is the lesson here. At the time, I told myself, I cannot be a father and a bartender at the same time. Because my dad wore a suit to work. My dad traveled. My dad had words like director or regional in his title. I had so much wrapped up in my mind about what a man and a husband and a father was that was so skewed and wrong that I tried to convince myself that I had to be something other than what I was, which was a restaurant operator. Right. So I felt like I needed to be wearing a suit and I needed to be making more money or have a different title or be in a bit different place in life. And I would not be respected as a man and as a father if I was still working in restaurants. So I tried all sorts of stuff. I was in healthcare very, very briefly. I had a great regular at one of my bars who said, I told him that I had a baby coming and I was terrified. And he said, well, go get your CNA license. They need CNAs, they need men, and it's going to get you good benefits. And it did. It helped a lot through that pregnancy in the first year of my daughter's life, for sure. But I still stayed tied to restaurants. And then I decided, well, I'm not in a suit yet, no scrubs. So I got to get into the suit. So I started doing insurance sales and selling knives door to door and running agencies. And the whole time, not only was I not really happy and fulfilled, but I was just not a good person. I wasn't as great a human being as I could be because I wasn't really being true to myself. When I learned that the value that I have as a human being is inherent regardless of the job I have, I gave myself the freedom in the room to go back to doing what I really love, and immediately got back into restaurants, which immediately led to management very quickly back at Chili's and changed the trajectory of my life altogether. And to this day, I tell people all the time, everything in my life I owe to restaurants. And moreover, like I give credit to Chili's. And Chili's has had such a big renaissance over the last couple of years. And it's so cool to see what they're doing. I really try to benchmark a lot of what they do in my organization now because they're doing things well. But truly, everything I have in my life is from the restaurants and from Chili's.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna echo the fact that like damn near everything that's been good in my life has come from restaurants. There's such a special feeling of community in those spaces, right? And not always, I will say that like I've definitely experienced some not healthy community.
Absolutely.
But I think that like people that understand how to work together, people that understand how to like dig down deep and get things done, like it's just so special, right? When you share that bond of like, did you see what we just did today? Like, did you think that those tour buses were going to arrive? Right? Like, it's like, oh man. And I don't know, like I've seen some big Chili's. I worked in a number of restaurants that were 300 plus seats, man.
Yeah.
Where the hurt could come,
Absolutely.
and you start to understand what people are made of when like there's no backing down.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And you talk about the community, and I think that this is important for people to understand because you and I briefly talked about this as well. That as an industry, we haven't done a great job of attracting young talent or the next generation to come and join our ranks. But what I will say is I've learned over the years that the reason that that's not happening is because we're not loud enough about how amazing the community is. It's the people that find the negatives are louder than those of us that found a home. And we got to start being louder about it because the people in my life, everyone in my life that I stay connected to are people from the restaurant industry. The people I talk to on a daily basis are from the restaurant industry, the people I depend on, the people that depend on me. And so, yes, there's always stuff to improve in the industry. And we get a bad rap because of things that happen in every industry. we just have to start being louder about all the amazing stuff that happens inside our organizations to drown out all that negative noise.
Yeah. I mean, you said something a few minutes ago about like the basically it comes down to that's not a real job. That's what I heard a number of times. Like, when are you going to go out and get a real job? And it's like,
Yes.
man, I I've seen it, I've done it. I built a career on, for better or for worse, doing things that other people couldn't do. And I made a good amount of money, and I got bonuses, and people took good care of me, and they saw that that if I needed something, I got it. And so it's like, wait, this is a real job. And I think that that's
100%.
coming forth, right? Like this not quite renaissance, but in the last 10 to 15 years, it's become cooler, or maybe the last 20 years,
Yeah.
it's become cooler to be a chef, or be cooler to be running like these big operations, or the fancy fine dining restaurants where everybody's in a suit and tie,
Yep.
including the servers, and it's got some nobility to it, but it's taken time, and you know it requires people to act like adults. It isn't the industry, right?
Yeah.
You can be an adult in a bank, or you can be an adult in a construction firm, or you can be an adult in a restaurant, and you can take what you're doing, whether it's fast or fancy, and those can be opposing or not, and
Yep.
elevating that is a real thing. You can make money. It's not the easiest way in the way to make in the world to make money,
Yeah.
if we're truly honest. Um, but I think that I really have looked around in the last couple of years and thought, what if we started to teach people in this industry, like, how to be better leaders, right?
Mm.
How to optimize their time, how to really think, because that's what high performance people do, right? That's
Yes.
what CEOs do, and that's why and yes, they have the money and they have the resources, but what if we start making like great habits around communication, right? Because we're in the restaurant industry. People get like dinged all the time for, oh, you're kind of dirty animals. You're in the restaurant industry, and it's
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
wait, we can communicate on higher levels with just a little bit of practice. It's not that hard. It's just nobody ever thinks of that. Nobody ever thinks of us. So
Yeah. And I love, kind of knew this was the direction it would go. And what you were saying was a great lead into this is why culture and leadership development is so important, because at the end of the day, that is going to be the face of the industry, the people that are leading it, and the culture that we create in the organizations. That's going to be the voice of the industry altogether. And
yeah.
we teach people I just had this conversation today. Training program is 6 weeks. 80% of that is spent in hourly positional training. 20% of that maybe is spent on certain administrative jobs, but
Oh wow.
actual leadership and admin are not addressed.
No.
So if I'm not taking care of the administrative side on the front end, how do I improve time management in a way that allows me to effectively use my voice
Right.
to lead people in the right direction and really cultivate the environment that's going to allow people to succeed or even just be excellent? Like, everyone wants to be a part of something, yes. I want to be a part of something fucking awesome. I want to be a part of something great, you know?
Amen.
And
Amen.
I don't want to be a part of something that I don't believe in. I don't want to be a part of something that has people that I don't vibe with. And if we are comfortable sitting in an environment where we don't make those things known, then we're going to continue to get mediocre results, because there's someone out there who's going to teach these people how to manage their time. Part of what I do is communication skills, because I firmly believe that you could be a 10 out of 10 skill set human being, but if you're a 3 out of 10 communicator, you're not seen as a 10 out of 10. You're seen as a 3 out of 10.
Yep.
So your ability to communicate or not can hold you back. But in addition to that, how do I communicate in the right moment? How do I audit the relationships within my organization? Simple things. How do I execute a one-on-one? How do I give feedback or have critical conversations with people, challenging conversations with people? Those are skills that are not taught, they're expected. And what I do know for sure is expectations without any knowledge of it will always let you down in any relationship you have.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I say it similarly, and I tell people that education or expectation without information is gonna just drop on the floor like a hot rock, man. You know,
100%.
like if I'm setting expectations, I need to make sure that I have gone through the process of making sure that you understand what it is I'm asking. You know, and
Absolutely.
I'll give you a funny example of this that wasn't funny at the time. And I was managing, I don't know, 4 restaurants at the time, and I got this one sous chef, and the dude is a freaking beast, man. Like he could handle a rush. Like he'd just get bashed over the face for 10 hours and he'd smile, you know. But he was doing so much physically. And I said, JJ, I need you to manage more. And he said, yes, chef, I got it. So I finish up my day and I go along, and 2, 3 days later I come back and JJ's taking it on the face. Like his people are kind of standing around and he's just getting bashed, right? He's put himself on the grill, and instead of monitoring quality, he's just slinging fajitas out the door, man. Just big bang. And I pulled him aside after the rush and I was like, man, you're a tough customer. I love the grit that you bring to it, but I need you to manage more. And he said, yes, chef, I got you. I said, okay, cool, right on. I said, I really need you to be coaching and leading and teaching. And I said, okay, I gave him more. And he said, yes, chef, I got you. And he was into it. And he's pumped. Once again, I leave and I go back and I come back like a week later, and there he is, man. Like he's now running the wheel, but he's still taking it in the face, and he's basically working 2 stations because his team is not really up to the task. And I was like, JJ, come talk with me, man. And so we finished, we go out, we sit in the dining room. I get him a nice cold glass of water. I let him cool off a little bit. I was like, JJ, do you know what I mean when I say manage more and do less? And he's like, I have no fucking clue, chef. He's like, but I'll do it, man. Anything you tell me, I'll do. And I thought to myself, and I said, why would you say yes? He goes, because I would never tell you no. You're the baddest motherfucker I've ever dealt with. I love you. And I was like, man, I appreciate that so much. Oh, JJ is the man. And he's a little dude. He's not a big guy, right? He's probably 130 soaking wet.
Oh,
but
wow.
The passion and energy to do a great job, right? Like he would just take the beating. And I was like, okay, I failed you. I'm sorry. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'll be here at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. He's like, oh, I get here at 8. I'm like, yes, I'll be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you and I are going to talk through every piece of your day, and you're going to understand my expectations. Oh, really? You have time for that? I was like, I don't have time not to. So that's my story of I fucked that up.
Those were some bars you laid out, though. And the last statement you said, I don't have time not to, I love. But you said something that more of us need to say more frequently. Like, I messed up and I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, we do own it when we mess up a lot of times. Not everyone, but good leaders do own it when they mess up. But taking the time to say, hey, JJ, I was wrong. I'm going to fix that. The amount of trust and credibility and loyalty built just out of that one interaction, like clearly you had already built a strong relationship with JJ because of how you tell the story. and how he would respond to you. And he's every chef's dream, for somebody to work with, somebody who can just take it and ride with it. But the loyalty that comes from them being able to see you as human and having that little bit of humility that I think is I talked about it on LinkedIn today, absolutely critical to leadership. The ability to find humility in challenging times is just a game changing. And so I love that story, man. That's awesome.
Glad you like it. It took me a long time to be able to say that stuff out loud because it was like, man, I remember coming home and telling my wife, and I was like, you would not believe what I experienced today. And she's like, well, tell me. And so I tell her the story, and she's like, well, it sounds like you. I said, yeah, but like, I don't really like admitting that I screw something like that up. Like that's hard.
Yeah, 100%.
But for me, I think that's leadership, right? Like,
yeah,
I think that what you said was, like having, I mean, for me, it comes down to it. We have to, as leaders, role model all the stuff, man. Right? Our humanity has to lead the role modeling, right? If you screw it up, like you screwed it up, man. I tell people, I'm like, when you screw it up, Jimmy and Ethel's steak is messed up. When I screwed up, sometimes there's tens of thousands of dollars to be moved in the wrong direction, right? Like the bigger you get, whether it's the chef of the big restaurant or it's the multi-unit role, or I mean, someone who's overseeing 9 restaurants, when you make a decision, it affects hundreds of people, man.
Yes.
It affects their day. And I think that people understanding that, like, when you make a mistake, like it can affect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean you don't do a thing. You got to do the thing, and you got to fail, and you got to learn.
Absolutely. I think the difference is being able to pivot quickly. And so if you make a decision and it's wrong, own that it's wrong and react quickly. Don't let that hang out there. So, your example of telling this person over and over again to manage more, do less, and then finally asking the question, do you know what I mean? No. Okay. 8 a.m. the next morning, I'm going to really show you what this looks like. That's the right response. And you don't have to be the best at the job. You have to be the best at communicating and the best at carrying yourself through it. I don't have to be a great server or a great expediter, or I don't have to be a great line cook, but I do have to be great at who I am through all that and setting the right tone. Like you said, the humanity of it all, role modeling the right behaviors. It's the golden rule. To me, the epitome of leadership is the ability to treat others the way you would want to be treated, regardless of how they treat you. And so it kind of maps out how you approach everybody. And it sounds like in that example, you got to that point where you were able to bring it full circle and really understand where he was at and what your role in it was, and take ownership of that. And that's a skill. Not everyone does that.
Yeah, it's hard-won skills, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
Let's talk about Max Hospitality, man. Like, tell me what life is like down there in North Carolina.
Yeah, down here in the South, we have 9 total restaurants right now, and a majority of them are in North Carolina. Most of those focused in the greater Charlotte area. So we have 3 that are essentially right within the Charlotte city limits, and then Concord and Lake Norman, some smaller areas around us, heading up towards Raleigh and Greensboro as well, and Fayetteville. And then we have 1 location in South Carolina currently, Greenville, South Carolina. So we'll open a second one in Fort Mill, South Carolina at the beginning of the year. So continuing to grow, lots of footprint, but it is in the general, like everything is within less than 3 hours.
Okay.
So majority of them all within drive. I could hit 5 restaurants in a day, no problem, if I was, constantly on the road. But it's a lot of fun. Max is a legacy brand in Charlotte that's been open for 20 years now. Just passed the 20th anniversary on Cinco de Mayo of this year.
Oh, wow.
So they opened Cinco de Mayo of 2005. So pretty cool story. And as actually in my interview process, I mentioned that I knew the exact date that I had Max for the first time, because my mother catered it to my rehearsal dinner for my wedding. So they did a really cool pig picking in the backyard. So whole pig on the smoker, the mac and cheese and all the great sides, the banana pudding that we have. And it was just, I remember that day so vividly. And then when this opportunity came about, it stood out. And I tell people all the time, that's how I got the job, because I was able to tell them the exact date I tried Max for the first time. So, but it's been a lot of fun.
I mean, talk about connection to what you do. I love it.
Yeah.
Freaking love it. I'm up here in Seattle, and honestly, I'm seeing a lot of restaurants that are just they are retooling their model, man, because
Mhm.
like I can think of one. It's kind of a old school meatball Italian pizza joint, right? She's got a big horseshoe bar, and the lady that owns it, she doubled the size of her walk up area on that horseshoe. And I said, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm taking at least one server off the floor, and I'm going to make my bartenders sling food too." And she really had to she's had to look at it. So I'm just wondering, like, what kind of challenges are you guys seeing, like, staffing wise and
Mm.
hiring and like what's that looking like down there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's dealing with a lot of challenges in the industry with people or staffing, but I think that the issue is not, I don't think that's the direct problem. I feel like all of our restaurants can get to a point where they are staffed at 100%. The the leadership and the guidance that we're providing, and then the leadership in the restaurant levels has to be really dialed in. So for us, we've gotten to a point where we are very well staffed in a majority of our restaurants. We've had some turnover recently because when I came to the organization, there was an entire restructuring. So I have a partner in this deal. So I'm the director of operations. My focus is on hospitality for the most part. And then there's a director of operations, culinary, Charles Long. And he is the only, I think I'm going to get this wrong, but the only Oscar winning chef I've ever met.
Whoa.
He has a, I think he has a, it's either Oscar or an Emmy for the work he did on a movie set and a TV show.
Nice.
But he's gonna be upset with me for bringing that up because he never brings it up. But he's a great guy as well. So we kind of restructured the company where we don't split the company into regions anymore. Where they used to only have, like, one had 4 restaurants, one had 5. We both have 9 restaurants, and we work
Oh
together
wow.
to execute. There's one message. We're locked in together, and so we have our set of standards that we're driving. And I think that's been a big part of our evolution as well. But to get more specific to your question about the challenges, yes, staffing, but at the leadership level. So we've been doing a lot of manager hiring over this past year and really focusing on what we're doing to provide the best training possible. And we feel like we
Nice.
have a lot of room to grow and have had that room to grow for quite some time. So we're putting a lot of effort into our leadership training and development. I think that another big part, just for us in particular, is this brand is built on beer, bikes, and barbecue. Now,
Okay.
barbecue is always going to stay in fashion, but and bikes are motorcycles have a very strong culture to them.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 54% of Americans today say they don't want to drink alcohol, or people are moving towards an alcohol-free lifestyle. The biggest category of alcohol that's taken the biggest hit is beer. So as a
Uh-huh.
company built on beer with, in some of our restaurants, 60 taps, we've had to adjust that dramatically. And
Wow.
that's had a huge impact on our operation. So being more thoughtful about curating the best possible list for everybody. I've been spending a lot of time recently getting very intentional about some of our non-alcoholic options that provide more of an experience. So rather than using non-alcoholic spirits, which are way too expensive and I don't even know what's in them, and they make me very nervous, why don't I try to create non-alcoholic drinks that are made with ingredients that boost your mood and
Nice.
create a mood boosting mocktail. So it kind of fits into that vein, right, of that bar experience. So those are some of the things that we've had to take on. The biggest things for me are training and system execution. So when I got to the organization, that was a major focus, was we have to improve our training and our systems. And I'm a big systems guy. You know, you and I have talked about it a lot. And so we've been attacking those things as well. I think that there's going to have to be more evolution in what we do. Like you said, some places are completely retooling their model. You know, one of the things that I do like about our model is, if I needed to take this model out of a 6,000 square foot space and turn it into a 3,000 square foot quick service restaurant a la Chipotle or Cava, like I could do that. I could make that happen with this organization. And so I can easily kind of flip this into that kind of model. But you know, we want to be. I believe that people are dining for two reasons today. It's either experience driven or it's convenience driven, and I think that convenience driven is dictated a lot by price point. So I want to be an experience for people. And a lot of that comes with the hospitality and the training and the little things that when people walk in and out of the building, they can't quite put their finger on it, but they know it was just better than anything they've experienced, you know, and those kind of intangible things. So it's a crazy time in the restaurant industry. And I think that for any operator right now, the important thing is to be really intentional about every move. You know, if you want to change something on the menu, be intentional about it. If you're going to create a certain labor model, you need to be really intentional about it and know what that's going to create. So one of the things that we've done is adjust our bonus program in the front of house for labor. You know, it makes no sense to me that you would have a bonus program that's driven by a labor percentage, and if you get under that labor percentage in the front of house, that's a good thing. That makes no sense to me. So let's change that, where you have to at least achieve a certain amount of labor. Like you have to hit. I don't want you running short ever. I don't want you cutting servers. I want you running what you should be running. If you can accomplish that, that means you're creating the right environment, and that's you're building. That's what I want to, you know, reinforce and praise, is that kind of behavior. So it is very much behavior-based auditing of our systems.
Right. Do you guys measure productivity? Like, do you look at sales per labor hour? Do you look at covers per labor hour?
Yeah. You know, it's sales per labor hour. Absolutely. Covers was something that I picked up on later on in life. And I was working with a gentleman named Jim Taylor, who you may be familiar with. And the covers per labor hour, I was calling it something else at the time, but I wasn't applying it. And so I kind of talked with him and helped me make that make more sense. But yeah, I think that productivity, rather than focusing on a labor percentage, focus on your production and, in essence, your sales per labor hour, covers per labor hour, and then having another metric to follow your guest experience reviews, kind of as a lag metric, I think is a much better combination for driving guest experience into the future. You know, we've just got to look, the margins continue to get harder for everybody. So
totally,
you know, one of our biggest sellers is brisket, and it's at an all-time high per pound right now. So it creates a lot of challenges for sure. $6 a pound for brisket. It's getting a little ridiculous.
Man, oh man. When I was doing Mexican food, like we got the inside skirt steak, and it was like it got up to $18 a pound when it had lived at 10 forever. And it was like, wait, what? You just like we didn't even know what to do. It was like, dude, are we really gonna go above this? We had this ceiling on the menu of like $20, and all of a sudden we had $25 entrees because it was like we just couldn't. You know, things have to be brought to bear.
Exact same thing with another restaurant group that I worked with, and it was specifically the marinated skirt steak, and it was like
Totally.
the best steak, and it was a killer menu item, and we had to raise it to like $35. It was rough.
Man, my boss sent me, he's like, I want you to be over in that kitchen tomorrow. I'm like, okay. Why? He goes, because I'm having 100 pounds of different cuts of meat brought down to you, and I want you to find a way to get us something cheaper. And so I was dismantling full chuck rolls. I was
Mm,
like, and I did okay with the chuck roll, and I got some pretty good fajitas out of it, but like I'm a good butcher. I'm a good butcher. Like I know my cuts, I know where
yeah.
seams are, I know how to do that. And I was like three-quarters of the way through breaking this thing down, and he looks at me and he goes, "What do you think?" And I was like, "I think we're screwed." Because there's no way that I can command that I can get my team to like do this day in and day out. There's just no way,
No,
right? And he's like,
no.
okay, so we're raising prices. I was like, we're raising prices.
Yeah.
And I must have cut 5 or 6 other things. We were using flat meat, all these things, and I just couldn't get it to be consistent and good.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
kudos to both you guys for uh, prioritizing quality over pricing.
100%. I mean that brand is all about that, right? Like
Yeah.
they're still in existence and they're still flourishing, and they have some of the densest hours I've ever seen in my whole
Mm,
life of being in the kitchen.
mm.
You're talking about a 7 unit company that's pushing 40 million. It's like the small restaurant is 4
Wow.
million a year.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's Mexican food. It's like it's cheap, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's a lot of people
cheaper than a
coming into
lot of
that.
things. It's
Yeah.
not cheap by any stretch. Um, Real quick, like that whole productivity thing and understanding it. I think I know Jim Taylor fairly well, and one of the things that I learned from him was everybody in the world looks at how to maximize productivity, but it's about understanding both the high and low threshold and what those really mean to your
Okay.
business,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So, like, if you say, we'll just say covers per labor hour, if you say that on average you're at 4, right? That's where things feel good and you're in the business. But what does it mean when you get to 4.1? Maybe not
Mm,
much. 4.2, okay, like, huh, we're running a little bit here. But when we get to 4.5, we're just going to use it as an arbitrary number. It's fascinating to realize that, like, you start to look around and you go, Jimmy called in sick yesterday. Jimmy never calls in sick. I'm getting more call-ins. People are a little bit more sick or they're a little bit more tired. And
mm.
quite honestly, my ticket times are lagging a little bit when I'm pushing productivity. And here's the kicker: out in the front of the house, I've found that when you start to push it, check averages go down,
Mm. That's a
right?
great one.
And so that for me is like, huh, so I'm going to say this right into the microphone. When you're looking at productivity, like understand where it drops off,
Mm,
where pushing too hard hurts, right? And I equate this to the tachometer in your car, right? It's like you have a red line and technically that red line you can run at that red line for a while, but when you are in that red zone of your tachometer, for anybody that doesn't love or know cars, you start to burn things. The internal
mm,
temperature of your motor starts to get too hot, and it's the same damn thing with restaurants. It's the same
mm,
damn thing with productivity. When you hit that top threshold and you stay there, you're gonna hurt people, you're gonna make mistakes, and
mm.
ultimately you're gonna hurt your business. Now, the other side is if 4 is awesome, then 3.5 means we're just going through the motions and we're leaving money on the table,
Yep.
right? As a quick example, I have a client, and we started talking about productivity and labor cost, and they're like, this is how our restaurant runs best is when we have these people in place. And I was like, yeah, but your profit is so low.
Yeah.
And they said, but we are committed to this. And I was like, okay, then there's only really one thing to do. And they said, what's that? I said, you need to first make everybody aware of what their guest check average is and their per person average. And
Mhm.
you need to give every person on the floor a goal. And you need to drive that freaking thing up.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you that 6 months ago, they were at $24.50 as a per person average. They live at 25.80 right now.
That's awesome.
They they've had three of their best profit months ever. They didn't change their labor model. They loved the productivity they were getting. They just needed to change. They need to pull some other lever. The other thing
Yep.
they did is, and this was me beating on their head, but I said, you need to take this amazingly big menu for a freestanding restaurant and you need to cut it by 25%. And when I first said
Mm.
that, the chef was like, no, there's so many
Yep.
things on there. And I was like, do it. I'm like, I looked at the owners, I was like, I bet my life on this right now. I would bet my next month's retainer on this right
Mm.
now. And they're like, well, if you believe it, I'm like, cut the menu. And
Yep.
now food cost has dropped, back of house labor cost has dropped,
Yep.
quality has gone up. It's just amazing. It's like serve less. And here are my two words that I use to drive this one: curate great.
Mm.
Stop providing variety and curate great product,
You
right?
know, we, what's today? The 4th. Yesterday, we rolled out our updated menu that was cut by about 25%.
Yes, I love it.
And you're absolutely right. The focus on, there was a period of time where I think a lot of restaurants got inflated and bloated and started trying to do too much for too many people. Well, I do barbecue, and Mexican, Texas, the Mexican stuff that makes, so we had a whole section of tacos and tostadas and quesadillas, and then we started having, well, let's bring in catfish and let's do salmon, and now we have all these other options. We need to have shrimp on the menu as well, and so we got rid of a lot of things and got rid of even some good sellers, but they weren't great and they weren't the true identity of what we are. And
Yep.
by focusing in on, we have these hero items, and our smoked meats, our barbecue program is who we are. Those are the heroes. Everything that we do that takes focus away from those things is hurting that identity. So we
Mm-hmm.
needed to adjust it. And I love the fact that you brought up check average, because a big part of my reporting and what I focus on within this organization is everything that happens in the front of house. But one of those areas is check average. And over the last 3 months, we saw a year over year decline period from last year to this period. And by making a few adjustments and setting those goals, it helped. By setting those goals and then like really providing intentional like coaching with it, like you're referring to,
You know,
completely changed the game for sure.
yeah. It even surprised me when I started seeing the results. I was like, this,
Mm.
I know this will work, and I know this is what you need to do, but to start to see their P&L change.
I wonder why that is though. Like, why do you think so many restaurants do that? Because like not everyone opens up with a 4-page menu, but then so many places end up getting there. Why did we get into this mode of trying to be all things to all people out of nowhere?
Because we are people pleasers,
Mm.
right? Oh, I love that dish, says Jimmy and Ethel, right?
Yeah.
These are my people, right? It's actually Ralph and Ethel, but like this is my favorite dish. So when it comes time to audit things, we can't take that off. Ralph, and Ethel love that,
Yeah.
right? And it's a hard truth for me, but the numbers don't lie, right? Nowadays, we got pretty good, POS systems, whether like they can they can give us some really detailed information. But for
Yeah.
me, it's a straight P mix once a week. What's happening? Where are my winners? And then cost that menu. And that's the next step. But like understanding
Yeah.
what's selling. My exercise, to be honest with you, is I print out the menu and then I pull the P mix and I write the
Mhm.
numbers for that period right next to the item. That way I'm looking at the menu, right? The thing that
Yeah.
draws our attention, that creates that
Mm.
experience. And I'm going, okay, full pound of ribs, I sold 1,000 of. The next closest thing was 700, and they all dwindle after that. So I have 10 entrees. I don't need 10 entrees. I need seven,
Yeah.
right? Those bottom three, oh, well, that's there for this specific reason. It's like, okay, can I create something that is close to that from one of those things with either an addition or a subtraction? Yes. And here's the other thing that I'm really fond of is remembering that the menu is not the same as the POS. Okay? You can have hidden things, right? If you have steak nachos and you take off steak, what are they? They're vegetarian, right? And that's obviously a weird example, but whatever.
No, yeah, 100%.
Right? But it's like I need a vegetarian item. Here are your vegetarian items. Right? Here's where they live. They don't have to have their necessary things.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. That same pizza place, they sell a lot of mac and cheese. I don't get it. I'm like, okay, but the chef is like, we've got to have the plain Jane mac and cheese. He goes, we call it Paula. I said, why? He said, straight up. And I was like, Paul Abdul, gotcha. Okay.
That's
And I
awesome.
was like, so you're telling me that you're going to devote space to a lower priced item when you have this really cool curated like andouille sausage and wild mushroom mac and cheese that sells. He's like, yeah, I
Hell
gotta
yeah.
have that. Right? I'm in. But here's the
Smash
thing.
that.
I said, if I say I need a mac and cheese straight up, can you do it? He said, yes. I said, great. I don't need to advertise it then.
Yeah.
So again, the menu doesn't have to be 100% the same as your POS.
Mm.
Your people need to be able to sell
Yeah.
to take care of their guests, right? They need to be able to take
Yeah.
care of their guests. But I'm not advertising the $9 item when I can advertise the $18 item.
Yeah.
I'm
100%.
just
I
not
think that's
doing it.
such a great point. Such a great point. I love that. One of the conversations that I've had a lot recently, or one of the things that I've focused on is, yes, I do want my team to know the best cost items, but I also don't want to leave money on the table for the sake of food cost.
Nope.
So I share what are our best cost items, but I also share what our highest profit items are, because
Yeah.
a lot of restaurateurs need to realize those are two very different things, or can be two
Uh-huh.
very different things.
Uh-huh.
My egg rolls might be a great cost item at 18%, but I make $6 off of them. My hickory smoked sampler platter is not a great cost item. It's going to be 40% cost, but I make $18 off of each one. So I understand the need for cost driving items, absolutely. But I need to have a blend of those things. And I think those are two different schools of thought that kind of get put in parallel and like polar
Well,
opposites. Let's
yeah.
try to organize them together in the right way.
For me, food cost is an aggregate, not a granular subject.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? It's what we're saying the same thing, but
Yeah.
I try to teach people, I'm like, tell me, but based on what you're selling, what your food cost is.
Mm,
And I'll show you that there are those, like, you got to have chicken, right? You got to have the chicken and it sells big banging and it's way under your food cost goal. Great. Right? But that one's got to be, some of those things got to be under, and then there's got to be the some that are over.
yeah.
The way I get that point across to my chefs when they're writing their own menus is I stop talking about profit and I start talking about contribution. How much does that menu item contribute to profit?
Contribution. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
right? Because
Profit
it's
contribution.
totally,
Yeah. Love that.
right?
I love that
Because
verbiage.
if you just say profit, it's this thing hanging out in the wind. If you say contribution, it's going to somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm contributing to your thing. I think that when you start to change those little things, people start to the little cognitive things start to click,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it just makes sense to me, right? Yeah, I want to be really proud of my 25% food costs on $3 million of sales. But if I had a 27% food cost on $4 million in sales, you know,
yeah,
is it, I would take the latter, you know?
totally.
So like, yeah, the food cost may not necessarily be uh, the number that you're expecting, but by looking at it, like you said, as an aggregate and focusing on what contributes to the overall profit, to the overall bottom line. And, you know, I've always been, you know, throughout my career, I was this dreamer, you know, kind of guy that said I was never going to be this jaded manager. I was never going to be the guy who worried about the financials. And I just knew that if I took care of my people, that all that would figure itself out.
Yeah.
That is not all accurate. And as a operator, I am required to be a good steward of the business, which
Right.
means the best way for me to put my people first is by making sure the company is financially healthy. But I need to be able to do both. And, you know, I thought that I was going to be this guy who didn't care about profit at all because it wasn't, you know, money isn't everything. But it's very important to maintaining the support that I have for the people in my buildings, you know. So
Right.
my thoughts have changed over the years, but I'm still very much I think that we have to focus on culture and our people to be able to drive, like they go together. It's not one or the other. You
Totally.
know?
They aren't at opposite ends of the spectrum for me.
No. Yeah.
I feel like if you create a culture of awareness about the business, right? And
Mm.
this goes against some. I worked for an old Greek man once upon a time, and he he was like, the numbers are none of your business. You just put out good
Yeah.
food. And now I tell owners, I'm like, tell people, because here's the kicker for me. If I walk in and you had an amazing sales day yesterday, and I say, how did it go? And you're gonna say, great, right? Because that's what most
Yeah.
people will say when you say, how did it go? Great, we were busy as shit last night. Now, if I say, how did that feel? Your brain shifts, right? They've done, like
Mm.
those fancy science people, they've done the research to know that your brain shifts,
Yeah.
right? All I know is I've read the like synopsis thing that
Yeah.
says when we use the word feel, it pushes our brain to a different place.
Yeah.
When we have a feeling about something and we add context, for example, hey Jeff, how did last night go? Oh, pretty good. We were busy as shit. Okay. How did it feel? It's hard. We were down two people, and it was rough, but we made it through. Sick. That was
Mm.
$14,000. Good work. Thank you for your thank you for your effort. Now
Yeah.
that person goes, $14,000 hurts, right? When I'm down two people, there's context there.
Mm.
That one's free.
I like
I'll
that.
give you that one.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
I love that one because when I started to learn the psychology of creating context, like it
Yeah.
changed my whole coaching style,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love that. The
Ask
context,
somebody
I think,
how
is
they
important.
feel about something, give
Mm.
them a number, and now they start to equate it, right? The other side of that is, how did last night feel? Oh, it's awesome. We were busy. Sweet. That was 10 grand and you guys slayed it. Comments were amazing across the board.
Mm.
Awesome. Do you think you could do more? Yes, we could do more. Sweet. Week later, $12,000. How did that feel? Dude, we were on fire. Everybody's lit up. We're charging. Like my cooks are digging it. We're loving where we're going. I'm like, this is amazing. That's better than it's ever been. Keep it up.
Mm.
Right?
It was one of
Here's
the
$50 gift
things,
cards. I love you.
right?
Whatever,
That's awesome. we started sharing a lot, especially I noticed with like, and it was true for everybody, but for our kitchen crews, I worked for another, like more of an upscale casual restaurant for a number of years. And we were very religious about our pre-shift lineups, like very meticulous about it.
Yeah.
And it's something I've carried with me ever since. I think that doing pre-shift and having one-on-ones are very important uses of leadership's time. But we were noticing that we were talking internally about where we were at, but we weren't sharing that information with everyone else. So we would take the whole kitchen crew into the walk-in, and we would talk about where our reporting was for that week, like where our costs were, where our sales are at, what we need to accomplish as a team to hit our goals, and then what their goals were for the night. And they would start talking about how they could impact costs on goods. Like, yeah, I've noticed that I had 3 recooks on steaks last night. And so I've really been paying attention to like keeping my grill organized and making sure that, like, from a timing perspective, that I know where everything is at all times. And the buy-in, like, people don't want to suck at their job. People don't want to.
You got it. Yes.
People don't want to be bad. They want to be great. Like, so giving them the opportunity to lean into that greatness, people are going to dive on that every time.
Yeah. So I say it ever so slightly different, and I tell people, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'll be mediocre today.
Right?
Nobody.
100%, man.
People want to, like, and especially the adrenaline junkies of the restaurant business. We want to rock and roll, man.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, we want to feel that, like, you know, like, we want high fives. We don't want to go, fuck, that was hard.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
So awesome. Well, listen, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming to play with me in my little sandbox of the world. It's great to meet and talk to other people who are passionate about the business and the industry, and who I can tell you genuinely love what you're doing, and that's pretty special stuff, man. So thanks again for coming.
Yeah, man, I had a blast and getting to know you, and we see things a lot of the same ways. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you and share a little bit about it. And, you know, I've been working on some stuff on a personal level that I think kind of resonates with what we've been talking about. And these conversations help me a lot with it. I've got these 3 tools that I use in my coaching as well. There's a behavior-based 3-part audit system for restaurants to use to audit the behaviors that drive the results they want, a leadership development platform, and a culture playbook. And I use those 3 tools in coaching specifically, and I can take them and put them in whatever order they need to be for whatever organization. So it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. But some of the conversations that we have like this, everything in those tools have come out of stuff like this. And so I always find myself getting a lot out of talking with other people that are really dialed into it. And so this conversation was amazing. I love what you're doing, man. And I'm grateful to be a part of the ecosystem for sure.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing how Max continues to grow, because you said there's a 10th one on the way. I dig it.
Yeah. Fort Mill on the way.
Awesome. So I will make sure that in the show notes, people can find you and Max Hospitality. Once again, Jeff, thanks so much for coming and playing with me. And for all you out there, I will catch you on the flip side. You've been listening to Culinary Mechanic. This show exists to help you lead with more clarity, build systems that actually work, and create a kitchen culture worth showing up for. If this episode helped you move even one step in that direction, do me a favor, leave a quick review. It helps more chefs and operators stop the chaos and start leading with intention.